Oh, it's going. Okay. I am testing out a live stream right now for this talk around pain is normal for public speaking and suffering is not. So, when we hear this, or when I've heard this, when I heard this quote, pain is inevitable, suffering is optional, I was like, huh? What's the difference between these two? Aren't they one and the same? And what we're going to be doing now is kind of pulling these apart and understanding the difference. So, for example, let's say you were trying to get this job you really wanted, and you get that call, and they're like, sorry, you didn't get it. And you're going to feel immediately like your heart drops. Maybe you're going to feel like anxious. You're going to start to have pain in your body. And it's going to feel really uncomfortable. And that's an appropriate amount of pain, right? It's a hard circumstance for anyone to be in. But then you go home and you start telling yourself like, yeah, it's because like I'm not smart. It's because I'm not good enough. I don't deserve it. Some other people are just so much better than I am, right? And you start to kind of get into this mind frame that's like I call it internal mental hells, where you start saying a lot of negative things about yourself, a lot of stories, judgments. You start reflecting back and like, my God, didn't I say that answer so wrong? I was so awkward in that meeting. And you start to build up more and more stories around that experience of not getting the job. So these stories and these judgments, this is the suffering. So emotional pain is those initial physical and emotional reactions that we feel. We feel emotional pain in the body. And the interesting thing is that emotional pain and physical pain activates similar brain regions. So that's why you feel it in your body, even though it's an emotional pain. You're like, oh, my heart, like, right? You feel it drop. You start to feel your hands get clammy. It's all very physical. It manifests very physical. So pain will cause suffering when it's not controlled. So suffering is when we create the suffering ourselves, the mental anguish, the stories, right? So it's our response to that pain, to that initial, uncomfortableness, rather than the pain itself. So suffering is our response to the pain rather than the pain itself. So what do we do? How do we avoid suffering? How can we just deal with the pain, not have to go all the way into the really terrible part of being in the little mental prison? We have to accept the pain. So sometimes the pain, the suffering of the pain and suffering, right? That is because we are pushing away the pain. We don't want to feel the pain. And we're trying to typically escape pain. Humans are hardwired to want to avoid pain because this is a 2 million-year-old part of our brain. It's a survival technique to avoid danger. It's like, okay, we want to avoid any imminent threat. We don't want to be like lurking around and a cheetah comes and attacks us and kills us. So a survival technique we learned is to really avoid any type of pain, avoid danger. But this is, again, a very old part of our brain. And so, yes, it helps us survive and helped our species survive for so long, but it's not helping us grow and thrive in this world. So this is why we did the ice challenge, because we put the ice in our hands, right? And we started to notice that there would be painful sensations and you want to drop it. You want to let go of it. You don't want to deal with it. But when you start to accept the pain, you bring awareness to the pain, you bring curiosity to the pain, You kind of just notice the sensations without it having to heavily affect you. You're able to kind of bring a new awareness to the experience so you can kind of detach from it. So Kristen Neff says, pain is like a gas substance. Allow it to be and it will eventually dissipate. So that's why when we had the ice in our hand, and instead of just like, oh my God, I want it to be over, you start to kind of allow yourself to feel the pain. It wasn't as painful, right? You could handle more. It was more, you can tolerate it more. So that's why in our course, we focus a lot on our body sensations, right? Before we start to speak and present, like what's happening in the body. Right after we speak, what's happening in the body, the sensations, right? And you accept how you're feeling and you accept those body sensations because that is the reality of the moment. It's a normal human being response to feel anxiety, to feel like your heart pounding, to feel your hands get clammy. These are normal things to experience because we're scared. So what we want to do is handle it from a body sensation perspective. We understand, we connect with like, okay, what's happening in my body? Let me just focus in on that before it manifests into all these stories and judgments and meanings about what's happening. So instead of it being like, oh my gosh, I'm getting clammy, sweaty little armpits. And it's like, oh, everyone's going to notice. Everyone's seeing that. They're going to think you're such an idiot. They don't think you're smart, right? Instead of letting it manifest into that, you just allow yourself to feel those sensations and accept the reality that you're a normal human being having some physical sensations. You accept that pain. Dealing with our body sensations are much easier to handle than the mental suffering of telling ourselves these negative things. Because what happens is when we start to go from, ooh, I got sweaty armpits, to, oh my gosh, my brain is saying that this means that I'm not going to do well, that I'm going to really choke up during this presentation, that actually creates more body sensations. And then that triggers more mental stimulation and more negativity. So it's this like kind of vicious cycle. And to break that cycle, we want to just handle it from the body sensation initial reactions, accepting the reality of what's happening in the body without bringing a whole bunch of meaning to these sensations, these uncomfortable sensations. So that's one of the big reasons why we work with the body and also moving energy within the body. Because what's happening is there's a lot of energy happening. Right after your presentation, you're probably feeling like, whew, like a lot of feeling in your neck and your heart, maybe it's like beating a lot, right? And so you can use that sensation and just start to move that energy around in your body. So you can push that down into your stomach, to your legs. You can move the energy up into your chest and your head and your arms, and you can start to circulate that energy, which can actually feel kind of invigorating, even if it's an uncomfortable sensation. So you can start to move those body sensations around, and then you're able to better handle and have more control over the sensations because you're just working on it from that perspective and not letting it manifest into so much, snowball into all of this other meaning. So you don't have to attach a greater meaning to every body sensation. Feeling uncomfortable in your stomach, it could just be uncomfortable in your stomach. It doesn't have to mean it's because someone doesn't think you're smart enough, or that it means that people are going to think that you're not a great speaker, right? We start to attach meanings to our sensations, and you could just be uncomfortable and allow yourself to be uncomfortable, accept the pain, understand it. Don't try to escape the pain. Because a lot of times that's what happens. People are like sweating, they're uncomfortable. It's like, oh my gosh, can this stop? I don't want this to happen anymore. Like, why am I sweating? I want it to leave. You're trying to push this away. And what happens is this just starts to, you might have experienced this, right? Where it's like, oh my gosh, now I'm sweating even more. Like my pits were like little stains and now they're like half my shirt because I'm like even more anxious about it. So that's why I would just like accept. The 5-day challenge is an I got you challenge. So the goal is to feel supported no matter how painful the outcome is of your speaking engagement. Now, we all have this inner approval within us that's like, do you like this? I hope they like it. I hope the smartest person in the room likes it, right? This inner approval desperately wants other people's love and approval. But what it really needs is the approval from yourself. So for this 5-day challenge, you're going to be practicing fear. Right now, I want you to just spend about 5 minutes brainstorming ideas of how you can practice fear over the next 7 days. And I want you to think about small things to practice fear. You don't have to be taking huge actions, like small things like, I'm going to just start asking questions in the classroom. I'm going to just start being the first to say hello in a meeting, or first to say hello at the store, or say hi to people on the street. Right? What is one small thing that you've been wanting to do or that you think about doing, and practice it? Because when you start practicing your fears, you're starting to change your brain chemistry of how you handle and how you think about pain. It's like, this is uncomfortable. Oh, I'm doing it anyway. Okay, I'm going to accept that it's uncomfortable. Right? So we're going to practice this very regularly. So think about and brainstorm small actions you can take. And when you're done with those small actions, I want you to choose one action from that list. And I want you to say to yourself, I got you. Because you are going to support yourself regardless of how the outcome goes, or however the outcome is for this presentation. However the outcome is for that speaking fear. Okay, so your 5-day challenge is your stepping outside your comfort zone. So number 1, before you practice fear, right? You already said it right now. I got you. If it's like, I'm going to say hi to people down the street, you say, I got you. Like, no matter how it goes, no matter how uncomfortable it is, I got you. So right before you go outside and you see someone walk by, just tell yourself, I got you. Right? And then be like, hi. It's all awkward. And then after you practice it, after you said hello, accept any pain that comes up. This is how you got yourself. Accept the pain, like, oof, that was uncomfortable. I feel what's happening in my body. Like my stomach feels like it's like kind of in knots, and I'm like not sure what happened just now, and like I feel all tingly. Accept it. Accept all of what is happening. Invite compassion into the equation. So you're going to invite compassion with words, a hug, or doing something nice for yourself. So afterwards, you might just put your hands around your shoulders, kind of give yourself a hug, allow yourself to get some oxytocin, some pleasure in the mix of like, I am dealing with this pain with you. Like, we're here together. I got you. So Kristin Neff, author of Self-Compassion, says that it's like dark chocolate, like the bitterness of dealing with pain, but adding a little sweetness into the mix, a little oxytocin with the compassion. So you can think of it like it's like dark chocolate. It's a little uncomfortable, it's a little bitter, but with a little sweetness because you're there for yourself regardless. For every time you do this, you're going to share one observation in Slack each day. So in the 5-day challenge Slack, you're going to share one observation. Now, don't forget to keep remembering that you're going to share the observation because you want to bring your observer part of your mind into every single one of these challenges, into every time you practice fear. Because when you start to invite more of the observer, more of the curious person who's observing yourself go through this experience, the easier practicing is going to be, because you're not like, oh my God, I'm just like so scared. I don't know what's happening. You're observing like, oh, this is interesting how like freaked out I am. This is really interesting. This is curious. Like, what am I feeling right now? Right? Adding that little bit of distance between just being in the eye of the storm and just feeling everything allows you to bring a new quality to the experience, to your painful and uncomfortable experience, that allows you to think of it more like an experiment than you just lost in something really uncomfortable and painful. So right now for your assignment, your in-class assignment is to submit into the 5-day channel. What's your one small action you're going to practice over the next 7 days? What's that one thing that you can regularly practice that's small, but it's going to be a little uncomfortable? What is the one thing you are going to do to make yourself feel good after you practice? So whether that's like a little self-hug, saying some words, or maybe you like, I'm going to have a piece of chocolate afterwards or have a nice tea afterwards. Like, how are you going to take care of yourself? And just write, I got you next to the plan. So that is going to be your 5-day challenge. I like to think of it, it's like riding a bike with a helmet. If you go down like this hill, let's say without a helmet, and you're going down and you're like, this is really scary. I am so scared I'm going to fall and crack my head open and die. But if you have a helmet on, you're like, you know what? It's going to be okay. Like, I'm not going to die. There's a little bit of safety. It's a little bit of psychological safety that you are giving yourself, and physical safety in the case of the bike. But that's what we're doing when we're saying, I got you. No matter how this goes, we're going to accept the pain. We're going to deal with that. We're not going to let it manifest into all this mental suffering. I'm just going to accept it. We're going to sit through the pain, and we're just going to give ourselves a little hug and deal with this. And I'm going to take you out for some tea later. Get you a nice mango smoothie. And then there's your psychological safety for dealing with some of these scary situations. So there is the approval seeker within us, right? The approval seeker trying to find everyone else to give us self-worth. Like, is this presentation okay? Was it okay to say this? I don't know, right? We have that inner being inside of us, and we have to accept and love that that's a part of us. But this approval seeker thinks that your self-approval means so little. It's going to be like, who cares about what you think about yourself? Who cares? You don't need to take care of yourself. Who cares? Why? No, get it from someone else. The powerful you knows that how you feel about yourself determines how much love, success, and happiness you let in. So that's what we're trying to work on from this exercise, is building more and more of our powerful you. And powerful you is like, I have your back no matter what happens. I got you. We're going to deal with it together. We're not going to avoid pain. We're not going to avoid putting ourselves through this. We are going to deal with this together. Because life can be painful sometimes. We have to accept that. We have to accept the reality of life. If I only want things to be pleasurable and happy, then I'm never going to ever do anything worthwhile, because I'll just stay at home, just like, oh, I'm just happy at home, cozy, watching Netflix, right? But I'm not going to go after what I really want, to make the difference that I want to make, to connect with people in the way that I want to push myself and grow in the way that I want to. So the assignments for this week is you're going to be doing a post-presentation reflection, right? So after every presentation you do, you're going to reflect on it from a very balanced view. We're going to talk about what we're proud of, as well as what are things that we can take away and learn from this experience and take to the next experience we have. We're doing the 5-day I Got You challenge, and we're going to do the What Matters presentation. Work on that to do next week, to do that presentation live with the group next week, or put that in the assignments channel if you do that on Loom. All right, so those are the 3 things for the assignments this week. All right, I hope that you enjoyed today's session, and I will be seeing you guys very soon. All right, bye.